Mitch, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I always like to just start the podcast.
Yeah.
Now, we said earlier before we chatted, like, you had an interesting time at school. So if you could just take us back a little bit to what was Mitch like at school? What was going on there?
I would say very cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super cheeky, super cocky, super confident. You know, I was probably like the most cockiest 11-year-old that you'll probably ever meet. I think that comes from, so I had a football background from very early. And, you know, I played for Premier League clubs when I was like, even like from 99. So I was always kind of like 5 steps ahead of anyone in my like school group in a way.
Okay.
So when people was like learning how to do basic things, because of my footballing pedigree and background, I was just more advanced as a kid in a way. I actually started playing football at a decent level when I was like 6. So like, and I know it sounds really basic, but even like being 6 years old and having to be at a certain place and time every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday mornings is different to any other 6-year-old that they were doing at that time. Yeah. So it built a little bit of discipline in me from quite a young age. And that's what I feel like advanced me a little bit further when I was a kid. So when I got to when I was a kid, I was just quite cocky just because I knew I was kind of ahead of everyone else. But that actually kind of led to a bit of a downfall really, because I just absolutely just didn't really care at school. Because I played football. The only route my life was going forward was to be a footballer. And
so normally I don't go back to the single digits.
Yeah.
But like, how did you end up getting to football at 6? Was it just your classic being a kid playing football? Were your parents sending you on that path? How did that all spark?
I would say that very similar to how this kind of starts with most young kids. So initially starts off of fun, and then as you become better, it becomes more serious. Now, for me, it was too serious too soon. If I could look back now, I would have told my parents, don't send me to any like Premier League clubs at that age, because when you're a kid, the best thing you can do is just play football and have fun. But it was just too serious at such a young age. And, you know, in life, you're the best when you're happy. And, you know, you don't want to be not looking forward to going to games when you're 11 because there's so much pressure. Yeah. Like it's over before it's even started in a way.
So you were like the Bieber of Manchester football, like you got like big, young, and it kind of like...
Yeah, probably something like that. And like I said, I had like quite a pushy dad. So my dad was like, you know, I was more, if it didn't have a good game, I wasn't bothered about what the coaches said. I was like scared going back into the car because I'm thinking my dad's going to kill me. And that is ultimately what I think kind of didn't help towards the back end, because I look at some like, it does work in a way where I have seen some lads who have had a father and it have worked. But I think the best thing that parents can be is just be there for the kid in a way, and be like, look, if you play bad, you play good, you're still my son, you're still my daughter, and that's what it is. But for me, it felt just like it was like life or death if we didn't play good that day.
Was it almost like, was he like, because you said you felt the pressure, was he actually putting the pressure on you? Was it almost like living vicariously through you as well, saw potential, because like football's obviously huge in the UK.
Yeah.
Was it like, this could be something, so you're only letting yourself down?
Yeah. And also, like, you know, I come from a very middle class working class family, and, you know, probably at that time had never ever seen potential of, you know, super wealth coming into the family in a way. So, you know, I owe a lot to my mum and dad for what they did for me when I was young, because, you know, I literally wouldn't be here running Flowed now without that football background. It's literally impossible for me to be doing what I'm doing at such a young age without that pedigree. But yeah, look, I've got a lot to, as much as, and life has got this funny thing of it working out in a way. So even though if it didn't make sense at the time, you think, wow, very grateful for all of those kind of, you know, learnings I took at that point in life.
Sure, you make the most of kind of like the experiences that you have. You made a choice for it to go the right way. So back to 11, 12, cocky, arrogant, in school, good footballer.
Yeah.
No interest in the education side of things, because obviously you were focusing all your energies on football. So then what happened? You were going, and what, like,
so I got
grades weren't great.
So I got kicked out of school at 15. I didn't even go and pick my GCSEs up. I was just like, again, just so not bothered whatsoever. And I think my parents as well was like, yeah, you've literally got zero hope. You have to be a footballer or else, you know.
What were you kicked out for though? Just having bad marks?
Not necessarily, but just being disruptive. You know, like just being disruptive. That was just my personality. I just wanted to have a laugh, have fun, you know, not really take life too seriously at that age. And, you know, maybe I still have a bit of that in me now, which, you know, I don't necessarily see as an issue. But yeah, just being disruptive really. And, you know, I think the teacher just wanted me out because at that age, people in year 11, for what it was called back then, you know, kids are trying to focus on getting good grades.
What age is that? Sorry.
So that was 15 when I got kicked out. Yeah. So like pretty much the last year of high school.
Okay.
So I think there was like, look, you're being annoying to other people actually trying to do something with their life here. So, you know, please leave anyway. That's what it was like.
Any kind of warnings or just like one day?
Yeah, like maybe 2 or 3. I definitely had it coming. But again, like I took some learnings from that as well, because it kind of told me, again, little lessons to be like, look, you can't just do that. You can't just be, you can't keep disrupting class and whatever, and it's all fine. There's got to be some kind of, you know, consequence.
Yeah, but you didn't care, even when you were kicked out.
I didn't care.
So the football was obviously what made you care less. But like your friends and stuff you'd made, were you worried of like missing out days with them, or really it just didn't impact you in that way?
So one thing about me, I've always been a super lone wolf. Even from super young, I've always when I was younger, I'd like move around friendship groups to friendship groups, and I was just kind of on my own in a way. But after 2 years, I'll hang around with this group. For the next 2 years, I'll hang around with this group. But I kind of always found myself back with myself in a way. And I think because I moved away from home when I was 16 to go and play football. So I moved to Blackpool, which is only about an hour away. But I had a scholarship there, and I moved in there.
So 15, kicked out. Then you went looking for the scholarship?
No, so I already had that. So at 15, pretty much that's why I was
like, of course you didn't care then, yeah.
I've got a contract for the next 2 or 3 years here. So like, yeah. And at that point, so and this is the thing with lads who get like scholarships and whatever, they think they've made it at that point. But that scholarship is literally a tiny contract. It's like basically like minimum wage for, you know, what a footballer can be paid in a way. Yeah. It's not a lot of money whatsoever. But again, you're 16, you're thinking, wow, I'm getting paid the big bucks here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had that contract at 16. That's why I think I was just not really bothered about school, because I already had the contract in a way. So that was already a done deal. I knew that was going to take me through to being 18, 19.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about Blackpool then. Yeah. How was that? Because you're saying young 16-year-old you thought he'd made it on the path to be a footballer. 2 years in Blackpool. How was the experience?
Yeah,
going from like the best, one of the best football players in the school, cheeky chappy, to that. What was kind of the learnings there?
It was really fun actually. I had such a fun time. It was so this was at the point where Blackpool were in the Premier League, and this is where Ian Holloway was the manager. And if anyone's ever heard of Ian Holloway, he's a bit crazy. So the atmosphere that he had in the training camp was just it was I've never seen a football club like it, to be honest. Like they just spend an hour training a day just doing headers and volleys, and it was like, but the overall atmosphere in the training camp was just super fun.
Okay.
So it was a really fun time looking back.
I guess I was curious, did it, because it was more serious, more professional, did it start imparting more like structure and rules on you, or because you say it's fun?
Yeah, I would say so. But I played at other clubs. Like I played at Man United, I played at Blackburn, and they are a lot more regimented. But again, why it was quite interesting, because Blackpool was this small team in the Premier League, punching way above their weight, and the training was headers and volleys.
Yeah.
So like that's what made it like quite,
it was like happy to be. They were happy to be there. You were happy to be with them. So it was just everyone was joyful.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, there was obviously strict training and stuff there, but like a lot of players at the club there. And there wasn't, at the time when I was there wasn't a lot of good pros as influences. There was like people coming in hungover, drunk every other day. So like, and that for a young 16-year-old, 17-year-old, they're the people you really want to avoid at that point. But at that time, you think they're cool. So it's like, this guy's going out on a Tuesday. I'm going to go out on a Tuesday. But that guy's 28, is on 10 grand a week. He can do that.
Yeah.
You're on a scholarship wage. You can't do that in a way.
So that impacted you. So like, were you going out with the Tuesday night boys and struggling on a Wednesday?
So I would say so. But it not necessarily struggling the next day. It's just a focus. Like when some lads start going out, they maybe start going out when they're maybe like 21 to 23, maybe when they've got a couple of contracts behind them. But I started a little bit too early.
Yeah.
But I think that was due to the influences that was in the dressing room at that time. What I really needed was someone being like, Mitch, what are you doing? Stop it. You're good at football. You know, what are you doing? You know, just ignore them in a way. But, you know, it is what it is. But my own choices, I made them.
Of course, yeah, no, love the accountability. So Blackpool, you were there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
So was there for 2 years. I was actually captain of the reserve team for a year, for my first year, going really, really well. I was, you know, my next contract was almost like name your wage in a way. And then the reserve manager got sacked. And then this is the funny thing about football. You can be thrown into things as quick as you can be thrown out. New manager comes in, not his cup of tea. I don't get a new contract in a way. But again, a month ago, I could be like, I'm the first one getting a contract on the next one in a way. So, and I hear this story time and time again from lads. But yeah, so I got released from Blackpool. I then went and played a stint in the National League for a few different clubs. When I got to like 19, 20, I noticed I'm kind of falling down the leagues here.
Well, so yeah, because I'm interested, because when you got released, obviously a change of managers and stuff, it feels like it's out of your control, which it is.
Yeah.
But at that point, were you getting worried or concerned? Because up until this point, we're kind of talking about like you're free-spirited, loving, good energy. Was this like the first knock?
I would say so. And again, I come from a family of working class people. If you're not earning money, you got to go and work. So, you know, I was living with my parents. My dad's a construction manager, and he was like, I know an electrician who's taking on. And I'm thinking to myself, fucking hell, I don't want to do that.
Well, he, you know, 5-6 years before, he was giving you pressure about being a footballer when this happened.
Yeah, and I think it was still like, it was still that pressure on, but it's now pressure on to come, okay, if you're living in my house, you need to start earning money. Okay. In a way. That was almost like the mentality, which I don't see an issue with that, to be honest. Of course. Because I like that. I think, you know, and again, that again kicked me on to go and find opportunities. At one point, he was saying, "Look, you got to go and get on the dole." And I actually think when I was like 19, I went on the dole for a few months, and it was the most demoralizing thing I've ever done, because I was looking around, being like, I shouldn't be here. Like, what am I doing here? But I needed some money. Like, you know, my parents were basically saying, "Look, you need to go and bring some money into the house. Like, you know, we can't just give you money just for, you know, whilst you go and play part-time football in a way." Because that's what I was doing. I was playing part-time.
Well, it's good. They almost had to remove the security blanket, because even just knowing it was there, if it was too easy, it might not have spurred you on.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm actually really glad that happened. But it got to a point where I was going down the leagues, and I kind of had like a moment where I look back at it, you know, like 3 years ago, I had these like huge ambitions to be in the Premier League, to play, you know, to earn all of this money, etc., be around, you know, be really successful. And I just kind of looked at him like, it's probably not going to happen. I probably don't have that passion that I thought I had for this game. And I think that passion is like, it's impossible to be successful in football if you don't live, sleep and breathe it. And I didn't live, sleep and breathe it. I just had a talent, but that's not good enough to be really successful.
I know things are great with Flowed and all that, but I'm curious, any regrets about not being a footballer now? Do you look back and sometimes wonder, what if?
Do you know what? No. A few years ago, yeah. But for what I'm doing now with Flowed, I really feel like this is where I'm meant to be. And I sometimes look at footballers' lives now, and I think it's a bit of a scam, to be honest, because being a footballer isn't all what it's made out to be, even though it seems that way. But the reality is, you know, you're working, you're an employee for a business, and it's super strict. And I don't like being told what to do. I like to set my own rules.
What's it? They call it sometimes a problem with authority. Is that?
Yeah, but you know, I just think like what I'm doing now, so I run a team of 25 people. I love that. I love making sure everyone's good. I love, you know, making sure everyone's happy. And that's what I feel like my purpose in life is, to be an entrepreneur. Because even when I was at school, you know, I was a kid that sold everything. And when I look back, I had an agent. I used to sell my boots. I used to get free boots from my agent at Adidas, Nike and stuff. And I used to sell them for 30% off. to my friends, and they got a good deal. I got a good deal, and then I ring the agent and be like, "Yeah, I need some more boots." He used to think I was like a bit of a prima donna because like this guy goes through so many. He goes through so many boots. But then when I look back, I think, you know what? Like, I'm actually not meant to be a footballer. Like all of these steps, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a natural entrepreneur, and where I am now is exactly where I should be.
Well, so you said you had that moment where you were like, I'm just clearly not passionate enough about it. So that's almost like, was there a crisis of identity at that point? Because you thought
I had like,
you were that guy.
At this point in life, I had like, I'm not gonna say like suicidal, but I was super depressed, I would say. I had friends who I played football with who was now playing in the Premier League. I didn't have a group, like a super solid group of friends who I could relate to. No one's had a journey like me. So I'm like, I didn't go to college. So like, I didn't go on that college journey or uni journey with other people who were all doing that at this point. I was just super lost. But that kind of gave me that determination to really just improve my life. And I started like, I just went and got a job in a sales job. And I was like, what am I good at? What is the one thing that I'm good at? It's other than football, it's sales. I can talk, I can sell to people. Now I'm a lot more polished than I was back then.
So what was the 20-ish?
Yeah. So maybe, so I experimented with a few jobs when I at that age, but my first proper job, I would say, was a sales job in a call center, and that's kind of where like the idea for Flowed started, and that's where I met Ashley. Also, so we actually met in the call center.
Okay.
In Preston, which was quite interesting.
So you both met there, and what, you both knew you saw opportunity, or you both were talking like about ideas even back then?
Yeah. So I owe a lot to Ash because Ash was we worked in this call center for like 2.5 years, and this was like a really good like training period for me. I had a really good manager that put a lot of time into me, and I think he saw a hungry kid that is willing to learn, and advice to any young person that's trying to improve their life, just be hungry with a manager, because a manager's got experience that you don't have. And I owe a lot to that manager for the support that he gave me. He developed my sales skills. He developed me from just a human perspective as well, which I think is important. Just just built my character and made me a nicer person in a way. So and I owe a lot to him for that.
Well, that's quite funny, right? Because you always hear it's two extremes from call centers. It's either people saying they hated it, they got time going to the bathroom, they learned nothing. But the amount of entrepreneurs that say their first job was a call center and it taught them this skill, this skill, and this skill. And obviously you'd the benefit of a really good manager. What's your thoughts? Do you think the people who say it was terrible and stuff, they maybe missed out on just like seeing a potential opportunity? Obviously that's a generalization, but just how, because obviously it wasn't going to be all perfect even with a good manager and the skills you developed. Did you have to turn it into more of a positive yourself, or because of the manager and Ash, it made it easier?
I just think it was like a sink or swim moment, and it just built character in me. By the way, at the time it was probably really difficult, and I probably hated a lot of days.
Yeah.
But again, hindsight's a wonderful thing. And looking back now, 8 years on, you look back and think, yeah, that did a lot for my life. But again, at the time, it was probably quite hard. And like one of the reasons why, so I worked there for maybe 2 years, and then me and Ash moved to Manchester. We moved to Manchester. I'm 27 now, so just close to turning 28. We moved to Manchester when we was like 21, 22 or something. So we've been in Manchester for the past 5 or 6 years. And I remember Ash was like, look, we've got this big future ahead of us. What are we doing in Preston? We need to go and, we need to go and change our lives. We need to go and push ourselves.
Sorry, any potential Preston listeners.
By the way, I love Preston, by the way, but we just needed to get out of that environment. It was a comfort zone, and there was two hungry people who wanted to do great things. And if you want to do that, you do have to leave your comfort zone.
There's that. And also it's just an unfortunate fact, right? If you're in a smaller town or a smaller city, the opportunity just isn't necessarily there. So you do have to
100%.
9 times out of 10 move to like a big place with the energy, with the contacts, with the opportunity.
100%. And that's the beautiful thing about Manchester. So Manchester is it's just full of opportunities. You can, we were speaking about this earlier, you can network with people. It was amazing because we used to spend so much time. Ash used to work at a business and they had a WeWork membership. So I used to sneak in with a WeWork membership, and it was great because we were just surrounded by loads of freelancers, small startups, etc.
Yeah.
And for like, when we was in the early days where we were still employees, because we didn't just move to Manchester, start a business and it's all swimmingly. We had 9-to-5 jobs for 2 or 3 years while we were building businesses. So we was absolutely grafting. Like, they were the hardest years of my life. And sometimes look back and think, I don't know how I got through that, because I'd work a 9-to-5 job, rush over to WeWork, and then work 6 till 12, and then drive home from there. And I'd be like a zombie every day. But it had to be done if I was going to, you know, really earn the right to own my own business.
So when you and Ash came,
Yeah.
you both got jobs. We won't hover on this for too long. What was the job you ended up getting?
So again, another sales job.
Yeah.
So I had a sales job at a marketing agency, which was again a really good learning curve for the role that I'm in now. So I learned a lot of. I would just say that over the years, I've just polished up from place to place where I've gone to. So maybe in the call center it was quite raw. Went to a bigger marketing agency, polished up some of my skills, and you know, learned to speak to some big decision makers.
So was that outreach, reaching out to businesses?
Yeah, something similar. Yeah, and that's obviously we come from a call center background where it's quite phone heavy. Worked at another outbound marketing agency and kind of thought, you know what, we can do this way better than the previous 2 companies that we've kind of worked at, and that's where Float, like the ideation for Float was created.
That preempts the next question. Obviously, so you were working.
Yeah.
You'd taken a sales job. I'm assuming Ash had taken a similar sales job somewhere else because that was the skill set you both had.
Yeah.
You knew you wanted to do your own thing. Were you just like spitballing? Did you go through a bunch of different ideas, things that you worked on till you got to Float?
Yeah. So before Float, we had an e-commerce business, which we sold in year 1. We sold for...
Oh, well, congratulations. So it went well.
Yeah, it went well. It was obviously, it wasn't a huge exit. It was a 6-figure exit, but it wasn't a super huge one. But for 2 people that started this brand 12 months ago with no money, trying to do something, it was like, okay, we can actually do something here.
Well, that's like, a lot of people's dreams now. You know, like you see all these like Slapdash, not saying yours was, websites made up. People want to like sell a bunch of product. What was the product?
It was a jewelry business. But like, so in the early days, so when like, you know, I became obsessed with just studying on YouTube because I didn't go to uni, I didn't go to college. My education was literally YouTube and courses and stuff like that. Yeah. And when I say let's say I worked my 9-to-5 job, I might spend the 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. just studying on YouTube and
specific things.
I think what I was just really intrigued with was just marketing online, like selling stuff online, and that's where I think that's where my initial interest came from. With the e-commerce brand that we had, obviously it's an e-commerce brand. It is a retail company, but it's 90% marketing. So it allowed us to build a company from scratch, build a website, run the email marketing for it, run the ads. So we did everything in-house, which was like I said, it was almost like university for running a business in a way. That's what it felt like.
Just you and Ash.
Just me and Ash. We never had any employees. We did I think the brand did maybe like 400,000 in year 1 without any investment whatsoever. And it's like literally 2 kids just giving it a go anyway. And that was like, and when we sold that company, that was like, it was just almost like a little sign saying like, you can do something. And in life, and especially when you're an entrepreneur, you need little reminders that, yeah, you can do this.
So what made you want to sell?
So I wasn't super passionate about that.
Okay.
I wasn't super passionate about it at all.
So because it's even, we've said like, you've been very good at hopping into different things, taking the learnings, moving on to the next thing, using those learnings, learning more.
Yeah.
Would you say within a year you'd learned everything you can from?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think as well, because it was only like, we wasn't educated as business owners at this point. You know, we was basically 22, 23-year-olds just created a brand, started selling product, and it started working. But it wasn't like a business like Float is now. Float has got a team of 25, infrastructure, 5 or 6 different teams, whereas that was just 2 people. So that was like a really good learning curve. But because there was only 2 people, we were just doing everything. So, you know, and it becomes very tiring when you are literally doing everything in a business and there's only 2 people.
Did you still have the full-time jobs at the time the e-commerce business was running?
So as our e-commerce business started doing semi-decent numbers, that basically gave us the opportunities to move past those jobs along. Now, it also came into a time when COVID was as well.
Yeah.
So COVID actually benefited us quite well. I know it didn't benefit a lot of people, but it actually benefited us quite well because we was being paid from our employer to be on furlough whilst running our e-commerce company. And this was basically a bit of a kick up the arse to us because it was basically another sign from someone saying, look, guys, you've got an opportunity to change your life now. And that's how I looked at it. I sat Ash down and was like, we're never going to have a time in life where we're going to get paid a wage to set up our own company. We've got 2 months max to make sure that we start earning enough money so that we can say bye to our 9-to-5 jobs. And that's what happened.
So what is it you think made the jewellery business so successful? Just because obviously jewellery competitive, e-commerce competitive.
We was hustling
day
and night. We had a drive and determination just to make it work, and we was hustling. We used influencer marketing a lot, and I was using my sales techniques to sell collabs with influencers. So we wasn't paying; it was all gifted collabs. But because the jewelry because it retailed for quite expensive amounts, I'd sell it anyway. We're like, look, you'll get jewelry. It's worth £1,000. We'll use that as payment, etc. So we'd get loads of like great exposure to the brand. Without paying for promo, which obviously is quite expensive with influencers. I did think influencer marketing was in a better place than what it is now. So you could actually get good, you could get good reach from influencers, where it's a little bit different these days.
Especially if it was like during the pandemic, more people online, that kind of thing as well, right?
But I would just say we was just hustling. We was just so determined just to change our lives because we'd been working 9-to-5 jobs and thinking of ideas, trying to run businesses for like 2 years now. So, and it's tiring doing that. You're not going to be able to keep that up for such a long period of time. So when we did get that gap of opportunity to be like, guys, you've got 2 months, you're going to get paid a wage for 2 months. Just make sure you just give it everything. Just don't leave anything on the table. And that was like the mentality.
So I'm just curious, just because obviously I understand entirely what you're saying about like hustling, like you're giving it so much time and focus. What else do you think there was like another kind of edge that was making it like the focus of like the sales techniques, the UGC thing, but for anyone who's maybe like starting an e-commerce brand or something, like other than like outwork everyone, is there anything extra like a wee cherry in the cake you think really helped you guys succeed?
So we become really obsessed with e-commerce and again it all comes back down to working hard, because becoming an expert at something means that you need to work harder than everyone else. So I would just say that we just spent so much time obsessing over the small details with conversion rates, with email marketing, with Facebook ads. We started learning all of these things and we kind of passed different duties to each other. So we was utilizing both 2 people because what sometimes happens as well, when 2 people start a business, they end up stepping on each other's toes doing similar things, but that's not really a good way to utilize 2 individuals. So I would do maybe the Facebook ads and the website. Ash would do the email marketing and do graphic design or something like that. So we just make sure that we utilized 2 people effectively versus stepping on each other's toes and doing 2 things that we're both doing.
So then what happened? Did somebody approach you both to buy the business?
Yeah, so we were in a market that was growing, emerging, and especially with e-commerce exits, it was and it is a lucrative space. And we'd never seen money like that in our lives before. And I kind of realized when we was coming towards the back end, I wasn't super passionate about product-based businesses. I actually hated designing chains. It was honestly, and I never did that, but I just had zero interest in it because my skill set has always been before that B2B sales. I've always been in B2B environments, so business to business. And obviously that was retail B2C. And I kind of felt like I'm doing good at this and I enjoy it, but I'm not like super utilizing me. And if you ever go in the business now, in my business, I'm in all of our big pitches and that's where like I thrive. That's like the best environment for me to be in. not necessarily stuck behind a screen and stuck behind a website in a way that I don't feel like that's utilising my skill set to the best of my ability.
And what about for Ash? Was she enjoying being in the jewellery business? Did she want to keep it going, or did you both come to an agreement like B2B?
Yeah, we both, because again, Ash comes from a B2B background as well. And I think, you know, we stumbled across an area which was trending, emerging. We jumped on a trend and, you know, we kind of, you know, got out. I'm not going to say changed our life, but definitely, you know, before that business, we was, you know, like I think we would have had a year left operating at that like intensity, and then it could have gone so the other way.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, when you're at that start of that journey, you've got to be all in. And we was like all in, like, you know, super all in.
And then get out whilst the getting's good kind of thing.
Yeah, in a way. But, you know, we had an opportunity, we took it, and then, you know, but, you know, things just happen in life, and, you know, you look back and think, and again, that's why hindsight is such a good thing as well. But yeah, like what that did is, when we were starting Float, it gave us that opportunity just to breathe a little bit, to be like, our life has been so intense for the past like 2 or 3 years. We've been like working 16 to 18 hour days every single day. Like I'm even on Saturdays and Sundays, because we just really wanted to change our environment, change our lives. So it just gave us that opportunity to be like, breathe a little bit. Where do you actually want to go now? Like, what do you think is a good route? By the way, still quite inexperienced business owners at this point. Only been running a business for 12 months, which is not a long time at all. But yeah, an interesting time.
Well, so that's quite interesting. You went from an opportunity-based business where you both saw opportunity to Float. So you'd sold the jewellery business, got that breathing room. Where were you both at? Because again, it was like almost like a next chapter. Yeah.
So we were just analysing ourselves, the marketing space. So we definitely wanted to stay in market. The thing that we loved about the jewellery business was the marketing element. Like, I did all of the, you know, we did the email, which, you know, was the thing that we really loved, because with email marketing, especially with B2C, it's one of the most profitable channels on there. So we was looking at channels to get into, and we thought, okay, email is quite interesting. And I previously worked at a prospecting agency, saw how this company operates, and I've spent 2 years working in a call center as well. And one thing that I was always very good at was the email side of things. So we thought, yeah, that's an interesting space, and pretty much started from there. And literally, probably that night when we decided, we probably would have had a website set up in the next week. I was always in the mindset as well, with an agency or service-based business, your website doesn't make that much difference in the early days. I just wanted to talk to people on the phone, I think probably would have had a client the next month, just because that was at the pace that we was kind of operating at when we started.
Well, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Was the email up? Was the website set up and then the call within the month?
So the great thing about what we do, so we built the business with our own marketing techniques. So even though we had this exit, which was obviously nice, and we was financially secure for the next year or two, you know, we didn't have to worry about bringing in a wage or anything, because we had obviously a pot of cash. But we didn't put any of that into Float. We started it with zero, because we wanted to prove to ourselves that we've just exited a business with zero funding for X amount. Let's try and do it again. And I know that looking back now, I might have done that a little bit differently, because it might have sped things up. But again, it was that mentality of just keeping things lean, keeping things tight. If I gave you
almost like a prove something to yourself side as well.
But I think you get creative more when you've got a smaller budget. So if I give you 20 grand to spend on a website, you're going to go and spend 20 grand on a website. If I gave you 5 grand, you're going to spend that, and you're going to make it stretch and make it work to the best of your ability. And that was like the mentality. Like, my first website, I built our first website, which is quite crazy. Well,
this is good. This almost ties back to the security blanket your parents removed from you as well. It's just giving you that mentality of give yourself a small amount to work with, because you know how much that pushes you.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously Float is a prospecting service. We work with businesses, and we do prospecting for them. We help them generate new inquiries to the business, and we basically schedule sales appointments for them. So it fits in very, very nice from a startup trying to grow their business as well. So we was basically our own client for the first 3 months. So what we was selling to clients, we were doing for ourselves. And at that time, it was pretty much me doing it. So at this point, me and Ash was pretty much doing everything in the business. So we was creating campaigns, creating email campaigns, booking calls, sitting sales calls, sending proposals, doing the full works like, you know, a company owner of that size would.
The best thing, I guess, is also if your clients were like, you guys are new, prove to us like you can generate leads. It's like, you're sitting here.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a great selling point in a way. Now, for me, in the early days, going back to what we was talking about earlier, I would work pretty much on commission in the early days. Because I remember our first clients, like when we was like, maybe I had 1 to 3 clients, I'd be like, look, don't pay us a small setup fee, but pay me when I deliver for you. Now, if you've got 0 clients, you need some proof of work, you need some case studies. Like, you know, I was even willing to work for free because, you know, I need to prove to other people that we've got clients, you know, we're good at what we do. We want to showcase our results. And, you know, for the first like 3 to 6 clients, I would say, we would literally just work purely on commission just to get the social proof out there.
I think that's totally fair. You say, again, you know, we've spoken about debates, you see like different sides of things. Some people are always like preaching the value of doing free work, and some people are like, no, don't do it, respect yourself. But I fall in the same camp as you. I'm like, if you're moving into a new company or you're starting a new company or new positioning, if you have no proof of concept or proof you can do what you say, you should be doing it for free and steadily building up from there. But people immediately want the final result, don't they? So
do you want to hear something funny as well? So in that time, we had a client who was a marketing agency, and we've still got them as a client. They've been with us for a long time. We helped them generate a lead from one of the biggest companies in the UK. And that was like, oh my God, we've just helped this client get into this huge company. This huge company ends up asking the marketing agency, really loved your email. Like, how did you do that? And then the client goes, oh, we work with Flowed. We get an inbound from huge company, and it's like, wow, this is weird. And now we work with one of the biggest companies in the UK, all for us originally working on commission. Now and obviously us working with this big client now helps us work with other big clients, because if this big company uses us, you know, you should trust us as well in a way. So that's just a really interesting story about, you know, sometimes, you know, work on commission, work for free sometimes, because you never know what doors it might open.
So Mitch, can you tell us what was so special about this email?
So our approach changes year on year. It never ever stays the same. We've got tons of different frameworks. Back then, I was pretty much doing everything as well.
So is this because you're staying on top of like new sales styles, or like
it changes
behaviors and expectations?
It changes all the time. So what people don't understand about email is it's just like any other platform like Facebook or Google. Google and Facebook are in control of how ads be placed, etc. Sure. So you need to be changing your approach based on that. It's the exact same with email marketing and email prospecting. The servers, Google, Outlook, Zoho, you know, these companies have got, you know, they control how things get received in inboxes. So you need to be on top of these things to make sure that your emails get through and they don't flag as spam, and you know, and you get good delivery in a way. But this is an area which I really think separates us from our competition, because we are just obsessed with what we do. And it's amazing for me because I'm in a space that I'm so passionate about. And there's no better feeling for us than helping our clients generate huge opportunities, closing big deals, knowing that it's come from your work, and just really being in a strong partnership with our clients is something which, you know, gives me and the team quite a lot of fulfillment.
Well, so you said we're up to Flowed only started 12 months ago. Firstly, I have to ask, I know it's a basic question, but I'm genuinely curious. Why Flowed? Where did Flowed come from?
So from a name.
Yeah.
So we obviously wanted our name to be focused around email, and with email, you know, how you build flows, and you know, different sequences. And I always like brand names to be quite easy to stick inside the mind.
Yeah.
And I think once you hear Flowed, it's quite hard to forget it in a way. Whereas some people, I think you can be too creative with names, and it's, you know, it might be cool and creative, but it might get forgotten about.
Yeah.
Where I think sometimes just simplicity wins.
Stickability. So, but you guys are much more than an email
Oh, 100%.
agency.
It's evolved, like, and it consistently evolves. Like, as the business grows, our service evolves due to feedback from clients, due to tweaking things. And this is another area which, like, I love about the business so much, just being able to tweak things based off client feedback, because there's always room for improvement. Like, there's never a point where I think we'll ever look in the mirror and be like, guys, like, you know, we are like the best that we can ever be. There's always going to be, you know, margin for improvement.
So like you're very market orientated. You're always like listening to clients, seeing 100%. What they want and adapting as such.
100%. So we do monthly review calls with all clients, but we also do exit interviews with clients that, you know, might leave. Clients do leave. It might be budget. It might be, you know, they might be going through a hard time or something, but we conduct exit interviews with every single client, and we ask them to score us on certain things. And then if we start to see trends that something is flagging up more than the other, we'll look at that. We'll look at our process and think, could this be improved in a way? Because 3 clients have flagged up that, you know, maybe our onboarding process might not be up to the standard of what we think it is. It could be the way we hand over leads might need a little bit of improvement. So we ask clients this, and then we every exit interview we have stored on a document, and we look for trends.
So I guess that leads me to, I'm on LinkedIn. One of the worst things happening right now is just like these people coming into your inbox being like, I can get you this set amount of leads. You don't pay till you see your results. And it's almost like rampant. But you guys are obviously, this sounds like just saying to the guest, but you guys are doing very well. Like you said, you've got 25 people now. It's been going well. What is it you guys do differently that you think is what has made you guys see the success you have?
So I think we run an outbound channel for our clients, but at Flowed, we run outbound and inbound, which I think is, if you're trying to grow a sales function, B2B, you need to have inbound and outbound channels. So what we do very well at Flowed is we run super targeted outbound campaigns, but we utilize personal branding a lot throughout that process. And that's where we generate a lot of inbounds. So going back to the point of where you was mentioning, like LinkedIn DMs are a bit crazy at the moment. If you are trying to generate opportunity through LinkedIn, flip it, start creating content, start making people come to you versus you going to them in a way. Because reverse psychology, you know, I'm a big fan of reverse psychology. And sometimes, you know, it's good to let opportunities come to you in the right, and that's why content creation is good, but also having an outbound channel different in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what do you think companies could be doing better themselves?
Good question. We're in the sales team for quite a lot of companies, some big companies, some small companies. I think optimizing, the best clients that we work with have got very thorough sales processes, and they're adapting, they're learning. Feedback from salespeople to marketers to sales directors is good. I think just general communication from marketing to sales to salespeople is, I think people, like, there can be sometimes disconnections. You know, with let's say if you've got a marketing director, you know, marketing directors, we want to work with these types of companies. Sales are like, we'll take anyone and anything. So, you know, and then what happens? There's a bit of dysfunction from what sales want and what marketing actually want. Whereas sometimes the best clients that we have is where both teams are aligned with, these are the clients that we work with. We don't work with anyone else other than these clients. Go and get us those people in a way. So I just think optimizing your own sales process is a really important thing. Like we're consistently optimizing our process. We probably create like a new sales deck like every quarter, just because as the business changes, we implement new services, we evolve, and we want to get those value propositions across in our decks as well. But you know, the quality of your pitch is really, really important as well. You know, like sometimes I hear not our clients, but I hear some people pitch and I'm like, you're not going to sell to anyone like that. Like, you need to really refine your sales pitch. You might need to go and hire a salesperson. You might need to go and hire a sales team. But that's probably what I would say is a big thing. Optimizing sales processes and just making sure pitch quality is as strong as it can be.
Do you ever get the blame for that? Because if you're bringing in the leads and their salespeople can't close
So
it.
in the early days, there was a grey areas with that, but now we've got a process where we've removed quite a lot of grey areas. So let's say, for instance, when we work with a client, we get them to, if we're going communicating to a group of people, we get them to sign that list off and be like, guys, if you generate me inquiries from these companies, they are people in my scope, decision makers that normally we sell to. So that's good. We also, so for instance, if we did generate that inquiry, that's job done for us. Our job isn't to sell, our job's to generate the inquiry. Yeah. And that's something that in our onboarding process, we make very clear. This is what's expected from you, and this is what's expected from us as well.
Do you ever go in, just because of the piece of advice you gave there, is obviously like marketing and sales need to be united. Do you ever go in as an advisory capacity and say to these people, like, because you said you've heard them, your sales guy isn't great, you need to refine your pitch?
Yeah, you've got to tread carefully sometimes with that. Because yeah, and I think as the business grows, we're working with bigger companies now. We work with sales and marketing directors at a much higher level, so we can, put our expertise into the business a little bit more. But in the early days, we might be brought on by salespeople anyway. So we're dealing with salesperson, and we kind of need that salesperson to be a champion for us as well. But yeah, I think as the business grows, we're working at a much higher level than what we ever used to be, which is obviously great.
Well, because that's what I wondered. You're going through this like really nice natural evolution. What's the next plans? Like, are you forecasting for where you want the business to be, different things you want to be doing?
So what I would say is, over the past 6 months, we've invested huge from an infrastructure perspective. So in the past 6 months, we've built a sales team, a marketing team, a HR team, an operational team. We now have 2 email service teams. So from an infrastructure perspective, we're ready to go at the moment. We're chomping at, all teams are chomping at the bit to be like, we're ready for scale at the moment, which is exciting. So now for us it's just about consistency, because we've got the people in their seats that we needed to get, and we're really happy with the additions that we brought into the team. I feel like a football manager or something.
That's good. That's where your experience comes from. It's like you said, it's all natural steps.
I do relate a lot of business to football because that's what I know. So I kind of look at growing businesses like teams progressing through non-league to the Premier League, and that's kind of where I think a journey where Flowed have been on. Maybe a year ago we was in non-league, we might be in League 2 now. And the journey, the goal is maybe Premier League. We're a few steps away from that at the moment. But I just think for us it's just consistency now. It's just consistency. There's a lot of good stuff going inside the business, and we're really probably set up to double the business from a revenue perspective at the moment, which
nice, congratulations,
which is exciting.
So going from rowdy kids to almost footballers to like the sales by the phones, all that experience, I don't want you to give like your football manager advice, but like what is like a big takeaway you would give? Like if someone came to you being like, I want to learn from you, what's like the one thing? You're busy, you're like, I'm busy, but here's one thing.
Leave your ego at the door. So when I went and worked at the call center, that dropped my ego. Because I've gone from having a super huge ego to you're working in a call center. So that taught me, get rid of your ego. And one thing for me, I'm like a business owner. I love investing my time into young people. I get a lot of fulfillment from that.
Nice.
If someone came to me with zero ego, just an absolute hungry attitude, didn't care if they look stupid sometimes, they're the types of people that I want to invest in. The people that try and act cool, but I've got no reason for acting cocky or anything like that. They're the people that I don't have much time for. So I would just say, just leave your ego at the door.
And I'm assuming you're hiring. That's what you look for in people who can be molded, people who want to learn, people who want to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look for team players also. So if someone came in and the quality of their discipline wasn't at the highest, but they was a really good team player, they was a great person in the office, they made people's days better, I'd give them, the time they needed to develop themselves, because, they're good for the overall morale of the business. And I think one thing which I've always been quite big on as well is the overall morale of the business. I've always wanted people to feel positive, happy, confident that they're in a good place, because people want to go to work and enjoy their environment. They don't want it to be like negative, and and there is going to be a time where you have a bad day or whatever, but I just think try and control the morale of the company, make it happy, make it a good place where people want to go and work that day.
Mitch, thank you so much for coming on.
No worries, thanks for having me.